was God's second mistake.
A line from Nietzsche that lands like a punch to the soul. It doesn't just provoke, it shatters. A single sentence that feels like a stone crashing into the calm waters of modern thinking. Shocking. Offensive. To many, it's the undeniable signature of deep-rooted misogyny. But long before Nietzsche voiced such brutal thoughts, his mentor, the man who taught him how to stare directly into life's abyss, had already built the philosophical framework behind such darkness. That man was Arthur Schopenhauer. Welcome to your inner mirror. Today, we begin one of our most difficult and perhaps most necessary journeys. We dive into the mind of one of the most bleak, razor-sharp, and brutally honest philosophers of all time. Our aim? To understand one of his most infamous beliefs, what Schopenhauer thought about women. Let me be clear, this won't be easy to hear. Schopenhauer's words are not warm, they're cold, bitter. He has been, rightly, labeled a misogynist, and perhaps he was. But here, we don't deal in easy labels. Like all true philosophy, we ask deeper questions. What did he actually mean? Why did he say it? Because maybe, just maybe, behind the bitterness lies a truth too uncomfortable to face. And so, we call it hate, simply to avoid confronting it. We're not here to defend Schopenhauer. We're here to do something harder, to understand him, to explore his worldview not as hateful outbursts, but as the careful diagnosis of a man who believed he had uncovered the illness at the root of human life. And to do that, we must also turn inward and ask ourselves, do his words, even the harshest ones, echo feelings we've known but never dared to voice? To grasp why Schopenhauer said what he did about women, we must first understand the heart of his entire philosophy. He didn't see the universe as divine, peaceful, or even rational. Instead, he saw it ruled by a blind, aimless force, a force with no logic, no mercy, and no destination. A force that only wants to exist, to expand, and to repeat itself endlessly through birth, pain, and death. Schopenhauer called this force the will to live. Everything we see, animals, people, nature, is simply the surface, the visible mask of this deeper will. And we are not truly free. We don't choose with reason. We're not autonomous minds. We are puppets, pulled by the strings of the will. Our passions, our dreams, our obsessions, they are not fully ours. They are tools the will uses to keep its cycle going. The will has one aim only, to preserve life, at all costs. And to Schopenhauer, this life we're trapped in is nothing but suffering. He said life moves like a pendulum, swinging between pain and boredom. We suffer when we desire what we don't have, but even when we finally get it, the joy is fleeting. We soon feel empty, restless, and so we want something new, and the cycle of pain begins again. We are like beggars given a meal today, only to go hungry tomorrow. Happiness? A mirage, a brief illusion in an endless desert of suffering. From this dark and relentless vision, Schopenhauer turns his gaze toward humanity. And this is where he makes a key distinction. Men and women are not two versions of the same human being. They are two separate instruments, used by the will to achieve its biological goal. In his essay on women, Schopenhauer writes things that still sting. That women possess less logic, are governed by short-term instincts, lack a deep sense of justice, and are more prone to deception. These claims are painful, no doubt. But in his view, they don't come from hatred. They come from his metaphysical logic, his belief about how life and the will operate. To him, woman is the purest, most perfect expression of the will to live. She is the guardian of the species. Her instincts, her mind, her being, everything, is shaped by nature for one overwhelming purpose: biological continuation. When he says that woman lives trapped in the present moment, he doesn't mean she is foolish. He means her role is to care for life here and now. Her genius lies not in abstract thought, but in instinct. Her mind is rooted in the real world, in the security of the home, the raising of children, the management of survival. She cannot afford to drift into ideals or lofty truths, because her mission is grounded in life itself. She doesn't search for truth or beauty in some philosophical sense. She seeks security and continuity, for herself and for her children. And Schopenhauer insists, this is not a moral judgment, it's simply the natural function assigned by the will. By contrast, the man is an anomaly, a rare chance to rebel against the will. While woman is designed to fully serve the species, man alone has the strange ability to step away from that biological program. A man can surrender his comfort, his joy, even his life, for something with no survival value at all. He may die in a war for something as abstract as honor. He might spend decades building a cathedral he'll never see completed. He may fall into madness chasing a math problem, painting a vision, or composing a symphony no one asked for. And in these moments of art, science, or sacrifice, man, according to Schopenhauer, is betraying the will. He is not serving nature. He is serving something higher, the selfless pursuit of timeless ideas, the love of truth, the refusal to follow instinct. This, right here, is where Schopenhauer's bitterness takes root. He sees woman as the symbol of life's affirmation, and life to him is not a gift, it's a curse. But in man's creative madness, he sees the rare chance to say no to life, to escape the will, through art and renunciation. Woman is the species' grounded sanity. Man, at his most transcendent, is sacred madness, the only being daring enough to turn his back on nature. This worldview grows even harsher when it turns toward love. To Schopenhauer, romantic love is nature's cruelest deception, the most elegant trick ever played by the will to live. In his essay, The Metaphysics of Sexual Love, he argues that when a man falls deeply in love, he is not choosing. It is the species choosing through him. All the drama of romance, the soulmates, the destiny, the poetry, is just a biological costume meant to hide a brutal purpose, to reproduce in the most efficient way possible. A man is subconsciously drawn to traits like youth, health, and symmetry, not for beauty alone, but because they signal the ability to bear healthy children. And a woman, in turn, is drawn to strength, intelligence, status, and security, because these will protect and support her during the vulnerable years of motherhood. So what we call love is actually a genetic strategy to bond two people who under other circumstances might be indifferent or even incompatible. Passion, Schopenhauer says, is a mirage. It fades the moment the will gets what it wants, reproduction. And this, the moment where love turns transactional, is where Schopenhauer's vision of women becomes not only deeply painful, but for many men, uncomfortably familiar. In his view, women know, even if only instinctively, that their power over men lies in the sexual desire they provoke. And they use it, charm, tenderness, flirtation, and even staged vulnerability, as biological weapons to attract and lock down the best provider and protector available. A woman who marries for love, he writes, is actually securing a lifetime contract of support. A man who marries for love is handing over a blank check to the species. Offensive, without a doubt. Oversimplified? Possibly. But before we burn his books, let's pause and ask something harder. Haven't we seen this in our lives, in the lives of friends? Haven't we seen brilliant men, full of potential, change their entire path, abandon their ambitions, pour out their time, energy, and resources for a passion that seemed irresistible? And haven't we also seen how the dynamic of a relationship changes, after marriage, after children, transforming from romantic fire to pragmatic partnership, focused on routine, survival, and order? Schopenhauer gives that feeling a name, and he builds a full philosophy around it. The feeling of being caught, of falling into a beautiful, sweet-smelling trap, whose real purpose only becomes clear with time. But it would be shallow to stop here. To truly understand this philosophy, we need to go deeper, into the life of the man himself, because ideas don't rise from nothing. They grow out of experience, from character, and very often, from pain. Schopenhauer's work is not just theory, it is pain, turned into philosophy. And that pain begins with the first and most powerful woman in his life, his mother, Johanna Schopenhauer. Johanna was not a typical woman of her era. She was brilliant, a successful novelist, and socially elite. After the probable suicide of her husband, she moved to Weimar and hosted one of the most prestigious literary salons in Germany. She was independent, charismatic, and worldly, but to her son Arthur, she was cold, distant, emotionally unreachable. Their relationship was a constant emotional war. She saw him as gloomy, arrogant, and dramatic. He saw her as vain, shallow, and narcissistic. Their letters are filled with blame and contempt. So when Schopenhauer describes women as incapable of objectivity, interested only in the personal, full of vanity and performance, it's hard not to see the ghost of Johanna guiding his hand. His misogyny was not just philosophical, it was the bleeding wound of a child who never received his mother's love. That wound hardened into theory. A theory not just about his mother, but about half of all humanity. It was the desperate attempt of a man in pain to prove that his suffering was not private, but universal. Understanding this doesn't excuse his words, but it gives them a tragic depth. It lets us glimpse the vulnerable man behind the so-called philosophical monster. And it leads us to one of his deepest insights. Hinted at all along, Schopenhauer didn't just hate women. At a deeper level, he feared them. He feared them because he saw them as the most effective agent of the very thing he most despised, the will. He saw women as subtle, irrational, and uncontrollable power, a force that dominates men through desire. A man can build entire systems of logic. He can follow strict self-discipline. He can attempt to free himself through reason and through art. But then, a woman appears, the embodiment of beauty, the promise of pleasure, the siren song of life. And suddenly, the whole structure of reason begins to fall apart. The philosopher becomes an animal again. In Schopenhauer's eyes, a woman's power isn't found in strength or argument. It's something far more ancient and far more dangerous. The power of seduction. The ability to pull even the strongest man off his path. To make him trade his highest values for a fleeting moment of pleasure, for the illusion of romantic unity. She is, to him, the smiling face of the biological prison. And he, the man who spent his life searching for the key to escape, saw in her its most formidable guard. And it's here, in this brutal warning about the power of desire, that the old pessimist from Frankfurt, despite his bitterness and pain, speaks with a voice that still feels disturbingly real. Because if we're honest, and if we look around, Schopenhauer's warning isn't just a 19th century theory. It's a drama that plays out every single day. A man with purpose, a mission that gives his life direction, carries a focused, masculine energy. It could be his work, his art, his spiritual path, his role in the world. It is his North Star. But one of the most common tragedies is this. A man falls under the spell of passion and gives it all up. He makes a woman the center of his universe. His goals, his hobbies, his friendships, all pushed aside. He sacrifices everything at the altar of love. He stops being the captain of his ship and becomes a passenger on hers. And then comes the cruel irony. By giving up his direction, by surrendering his purpose, he also gives up the very things that once made him attractive. His independence, his hunger for something greater, his focused masculine energy. They fade. He becomes needy, dependent, orbiting. And the same woman he gave up everything for begins to lose respect for him. Because deep down, a woman cannot respect a man who no longer has his own center. The love that was supposed to build him consumes him. The connection that was supposed to empower him weakens him. And so Schopenhauer leaves us with a final warning, one that, when stripped of its rage, becomes a clear, strategic truth. Don't be fooled by the perfume of desire. Don't blindly trust your most intense emotions. Look past the beautiful face, the charming smile, the promise of ecstasy. Pause and ask yourself, is this feeling truly mine? Is this the choice of a free man, or is the species speaking through me? Is this the blind will, using me as a pawn in its endless game, uncaring of my happiness, my purpose, or my soul? This isn't a call for emotional coldness. It's not about rejecting love, it's about walking into it, with open eyes. It's about realizing that inside you, two forces exist. One is the individual, who seeks meaning, growth, and mastery. The other is the animal, programmed only to reproduce. The wise man isn't the one who denies his animal nature, but the one who knows it, respects it, and doesn't let it take the wheel. A man who knows himself, who knows his mission, who stays true to his path, can love deeply, but not from need, from fullness. He loves a woman as a companion on the journey, not as his destination. He invites her into his world, but never abandons his own to live in hers. His love is a conscious choice, not a biological surrender. He understands that his worth doesn't come from her approval or affection, but from his own integrity, his loyalty to himself. Schopenhauer's philosophy is a bitter medicine, hard to swallow. But sometimes the bitterest medicines are the ones that heal the deepest wounds. His words force us to confront the idea that even our most sacred emotions might be part of a biological illusion. They push us to question our deepest drives. And they offer a path, a way to a higher kind of freedom. The freedom to not be a slave to your instincts. In the end, we don't have to accept his darkest conclusion, that life is only suffering and that denial is the only escape. But we can, and should, accept his warning. A call to build a center so strong, a mission so clear, and a self-respect so unshakable that no storm of passion can throw us off course. I hope this reflection, deep and yes, disturbing, has given you a new way of seeing. If you've made it to this point, I commend you. You've shown strength and a rare kind of curiosity. But I don't want this to end here. Share your thoughts in the comments, as always, with the respect this community is known for. Have you ever felt this tension in your life, between your purpose and the pull of romantic love? Have you ever wondered if love itself sometimes hides a more practical agenda? Your stories matter. They are deeply valuable. And if you've reached the end of this journey into the depths of Schopenhauer's mind, write the word will in the comments. It will be our quiet signal, our way of recognizing those who are unafraid to explore darkness in search of light. If this video brought you value, please support your inner mirror by subscribing, liking, and sharing this conversation. Your support helps us keep exploring these hard but necessary truths. And remember, this isn't about fearing women, it's about understanding nature, and more than anything, understanding and mastering yourself. Until next time, hold your center.